Hi, I'm Pete Torriello.
And I'm Maureen Torriello.
Welcome to the Sonic Boomers podcast. This is program 105. I should point out that this is a very auspicious version of the Sonic Boomers podcast because we're publishing this on the 8th of December.
Right.
Which happens to be
the anniversary of the beginning of our podcast.
That's right. This is our third podversary.
Okay.
Is that what they call it?
Well,
that's what we're calling it now.
Call it.
That's what we call it now. The Sonic Boomers podcast started on December 8th, 2019, just before the world went mad.
It's all our fault.
as the Mixing It Up with Pete and Maureen podcast, and then later the Sonic Boomers. So if you would like to drop us a little happy podversary message, please put it in the comments below.
Yes.
We'd like to hear from you.
We sure would.
And because this is the third anniversary of the Sonic Boomers, it is also almost the third anniversary of our move into YellowHouse.
Yes.
We started doing the podcast in early December. We listed the house for sale in December.
Oh, January.
Correct? January, was
January.
it? And it sold like within a weekend.
Yeah.
And then we spent January and February searching for a new place. And this was it. And we decided that as part of our show anniversary, we would take you on a little tour of YellowHouse, even though you didn't ask.
Nobody asked, but.
Now, before we get into that, we do have some thank yous.
Oh,
right?
yes.
We want to thank our longtime friend and super fan, Joe Caraselli, for his kind and very funny comments on the last episode we did on how to clean like a ninja.
Right.
Okay. And we also heard from designer Garrett Lashik.
Which just blew me over.
Blew us away.
We so appreciate it.
Sent us a little thank you note for mentioning him on our podcast called We Met Them on YouTube.
So thank you.
Yeah, that was really nice. We also have new neighbors here in our development. So we welcome them on Princeton and on Purdue. In fact, right across the street from YellowHouses, we have new neighbors. So welcome aboard, folks. Now, to tell you a little bit about YellowHouse, and I promise not to do world history on this, YellowHouse is what we call it. And the reason why we call it is very simple.
It's yellow.
A yellow house. My son actually asked me about that. Why do you and Mom call it YellowHouse? Well, first of all, we thought that the house needed a name. That gave it a little bit of personality. And yeah, it's a yellow house. So there you go. Also, YellowHouse was built in 1956. It is one of the 705 homes that are inside the Madison Park community, a housing development which was built in 1955 and 56 by Herbert J. Kendall. And that's the story of YellowHouse. Right? I promised I'd keep it short and sweet.
I'm glad you did.
And I did.
I had to twist his arm. But
So let's talk about YellowHouse and what people are going to encounter when they maybe come to visit us someday.
And it's kind of like visiting us virtually. So
yeah.
It's all good. Well, when we were first going to move here, everything was a blank slate. It was actually, we were very fortunate. The prior owner was a flipper, and he went through and everything was freshly painted with nice neutral colors. Everything was, up to par. And so we didn't really have to do a lot of work. So I looked at all these empty rooms, and as Pete has said, I'm kind of the design guru.
She is the vice president in charge of design, and
I'm the cleaning ninja, and I'm the
vice
design
president in charge of clean.
So when I looked at these empty rooms, my thought was my personal taste kind of leans towards what they would call boho or modern. Boho is a little bit more artsy, like the kind of like we would picture hippie-ish, with a lot of artwork and crafty things, and modern being, non-traditional, kind of up-to-date, clean lines, I guess you would say.
I think we moved a little bit more toward 50s mod.
Well, that's
as time went on, right?
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
So once we moved in, we started that on that bend with a boho mod. And as we started kind of investigating a little bit more about the history of the home, we realized that it really was kind of a mid-century mod ranch. And we felt like we kind of should give a nod to that at least in
Yeah.
some degree.
Without turning
our
the house
decorating.
into a museum.
Right, and I didn't want it to look like the Brady Bunch, and I didn't want it to look like the Jetsons, but I felt like, like when you buy a historic home, or when you buy a home that has a little bit of a story behind it, that you really should honor that in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So we have little touches here and there of a mid-mod
Yeah,
look.
I think you call them nods, right? A
Nod.
little
A
nod
nod
toward the
to it.
mid-modern.
So that's kind of what we have done since we've been here, and our love of koalas is evident in almost every room in this house. There's
See
at
if
least
you
some
can
koala.
spot the koalas.
I don't know if they'll show up in the pictures or not.
They
but,
they may not, but keep watching because you
watching.
may see them. They may
Yes, they
sneak into the frame.
So one of the first things that we did was, in a major way, was deal with the outdoor look of the house, the curb appeal, and some issues that we had outside. Do you want to talk about that at all?
When we took over the house, the previous owners had this old brick barbecue, and it had long fallen into disrepair. I mean, it was a mess. It was a real mess. And it was crumbling, and there were bricks all over the place, and bricks on the side of the carport and that were not cleaned up. So we had that torn out, and we had a carport. A lot of the houses here in the development, that carport was converted into rooms. We decided to try to make it an outdoor space, partly because we wanted an outdoor place to entertain, partly because it was just not in the budget. So we had the carport converted into this beautiful deck, and we replaced the entire driveway. We replaced all of the walkway stones, pavers, that were out in front of the house, and we rebuilt the front stoop
Right.
of the house. We also replaced the HVAC. We put in a new attic fan, and I think we had a small leak in the roof that we had to repair. So, what do you do when you buy a new house? You write a lot of checks.
That's right.
And we sure
Or
did.
you get to be a handyman.
Or you get to be a handyman,
Which
which
we're
means
not.
we wrote a lot of checks.
So that was kind of like our first couple months here was a whirlwind of activity, and we changed a lot of what the house looked like.
We added some garden plantings.
Well, that was later, but yeah. So I think we've improved the curb appeal.
We put some casual seating in the front of the house,
Right.
along the walkway.
And then there was the St. Francis statue.
Yes.
Just to try to tell you this quickly, my mom had the St. Francis statue in a bird bath in her house, and she's since passed away, and the house was sold. And at the time, we just were clearing everything out of the house, and after all the dust settled, I was saying, gee, I kind of wish we could have taken that statue. We left it behind. It was out in the yard, and we couldn't do everything.
Just got overlooked.
And my son says, well, it can be arranged. And I'm like, no.
With that little glint in
is-
his eye.
And I was like, no, don't do anything that, I don't want to find out that you're in jail for trespassing or for robbery. And he's like, no, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So we didn't give it a second thought.
Yeah.
About a week later, our front doorbell rings. We open the door. The St. Francis statue is sitting on our porch as if he rang the bell.
With our son hiding behind the
Hiding behind the bushes
bush.
laughing, And I'm not going to ask how or why, but somehow St. Francis made it from
did
Maplewood
get
down to
here.
here.
That's right, because we had already closed on the house by the
Right.
time St. Francis mysteriously disappeared.
And so St. Francis is out in front of our house greeting people as they come in. So that was another addition. And so that was pretty much the outdoors. And like you said, in the few years that we've been here now, we've added some additional plantings and gardening and things like that to kind of beef it up.
Yeah.
But that's our outdoors.
Something really nice happened on Halloween, and you might remember this. A group of kids came to the door, and I guess one of the guys that was with these kids was a neighbor down the street that
we don't
we
know.
don't
yeah.
know. And when I opened the door to hand out the candy, he said, "Oh, I just wanted to say, I think you guys did a beautiful job on your house."
That was sweet. That was
And
very
I
nice.
said, "Well," I said, it really, for us, it was a labor of love." And he said, "Well, the love shows."
That's nice.
That was so, so nice. And I hope he's hearing or seeing the podcast,
I hope so.
because we really, really appreciate that more than you can imagine.
You know, it just goes to show you what a power there is in the words, and how just some little thing that you say can make
Makes
somebody's
your day. Makes your
So
day.
be nice to people
Yeah. Be nice to us.
and to everybody.
So let's make a little stop. I guess we'll say our first stop is the living room.
Okay.
So why don't you tell our listeners and our viewers about some of the features of the living room?
Okay, we're going to be inserting some pictures in this.
Yes,
that
for
you'll
those
get
of
to
you
see.
for those of you that are just listening on the podcast portion of the show, just the audio portion of the show,
It's going to be a little hard.
we're going to try not to forget you, but it would be much better if you watch the podcast on YouTube and just go to the Sonic Boomers podcast on YouTube, and you can see everything that everybody else is seeing.
That's right. Now, one of the pictures that you did on the picture of on the wall is a watercolor print done by an artist called Ed Havis, and it's of the chapel at Seton Hall University. Now, this has got special significance to us, and that's why we have it in our living room. First of all, Ed Havis was a professor of mine. I took a watercolor class with him, and he was a mentor, and I really liked him a lot, learned a lot from him. But also, the chapel is the scene of the crime where the Torriellos
I'm
got
glad
married.
you said that, because I was going to say that. I was going to say, well, that was the scene of the crime, but you beat me to it.
See? That's what happens when you're married 46 years. You know each other's words.
Yeah.
So that's why that's there, and that's why it's special to us to have that painting in the room. You'll also see we have a couple of pole lamps, and they may look a little out of place in a way, because the rest of the room is like I said, more towards the boho mod. But these pole lamps are the nod that we have done to the mid-century look. One of them was a gift from our son and his fiance, and the other one was a gift from neighbors of ours. So
Who also share
a
a
love,
love for mid-century modern.
and they have the similar home. So the two pole lamps flank each side of the windows, and give a little bit of that mid-century charm. I hope it's charm to the room.
Depends on which of our kids you ask.
Well, we don't ask the kids
one
for
of them,
opinions.
One of them hates that lamp.
Well, whatever. There's also an antique radio, like a floor model radio, and this was a gift that I got for Pete a couple of years back, Father's Day, I think, right?
Yeah.
And that is his pride and joy.
Yeah, I think I got that about 4 years ago now, right?
At least.
It is a 1940 Silvertone console radio, and it plays perfectly. Whoever had it previously took really good care of it.
And located right above that on the wall is one of our newer art pieces on the wall. It's a picture of the two of us holding hands, looking out at the ocean, and it says, "We got this."
Right.
And
It has our names.
it has our names on it, and it was something that I found online and I customized it, and I got it to look as much like the two of us as I could, and it's just kind of like a special thing right now for all different things that we go through and stuff, and to have that as to me, it was like a word of encouragement. And looking out at the ocean is always something that we love to do.
Especially from the deck of a cruise ship.
Especially. And also we have some shelves and TV stand in the one end of the room. They're from IKEA. And IKEA. And the one we have chosen to kind of dedicate that to displaying some pieces of pottery and things that we've acquired that we just particularly like.
I found that one really good place to find stuff, especially if you're into vintage, if you're into mid-century modern, if you go to the Habitat for Humanity Restore facility down in Freehold, there's always new stuff coming in. And we have a beautiful mid-century modern chair that is in one of the bedrooms right now that I saw there, and I was like, I've got to have this. And then we have, 3 vases that we picked up there? Or 2? Anyway.
Well, 2 vases in a bowl.
Yeah, from that store. And they are just beautiful. And if you're looking for that kind of stuff, that, for me right now, is like my favorite place to go.
Yeah. The only thing I would caution is they're not cheap.
It's not cheap.
It's cheaper than the real cost of them, but it's still, you're not going to get garage sale prices. Let's put it that way.
But your money is, of course, helping Habitat for
That's
Humanity.
true. That's true. So that's pretty much our living room, I think.
Right?
I guess we could go to the master bedroom.
Right.
Another scene of the crime. And for that one, we've actually changed our bedding a few times since we've been here, trying to find just the right look.
And we think we've got it.
We settled on this one now that we're really happy with. It's a very mid-mod kind of a print. It does kind of harken to the Jetsons and that era of...
It's sort of that atomic
right
part of mid-century modern.
And it's got the turquoise and the orangey colors. And, if you're just describing it, it probably sounds garish, but when you see it, I think, it does its job. I really liked it a lot. And above our bed, we have some these mirrors. I would call them sort of like Sputnik type mirrors, or they're not mirrors that you are using to look at. They're like decorative,
right?
They almost look like flowers or something on the wall, and it's a cluster of them. We got those for free. They were found curbside.
Yeah, somebody had put them out and posted on the Madison Park Facebook page. Hey, I've got this stuff. I'm putting it out at curbside if anybody wants it. And we saw it and we were like, oh, those would look great up on the bedroom wall.
Yeah, so we picked them up for free. So that kind of makes up for what we spent on the vases.
Sort of.
Sort of. And there's also one of the koalas in that room is a latch hook rug that I made. It was from a kit, but we have that hanging on the wall at the foot of the bed.
Then we have the kitchen. Mm-hmm. And we really changed nothing in the kitchen.
Outside of things that we hung on the walls.
Yes, the artwork, which is all of Maureen's artwork that she made. That is the only change that we've made. Otherwise, when you see the kitchen, that's the way that we saw it when we bought the place.
Of course, we added the table and chairs, and we have a rolling cart that we keep some of our plants and things on. And it also acts as storage. People
love the floor in our kitchen because it is extremely shiny.
Yes.
It really, I think it's the first thing maybe that catches people's eye when they come in.
Maybe.
And a friend of ours had said to me, gee, how do you get your floor to be so shiny? And I said, well, you buy a shiny floor. It's what it is. It's one of these.
Can't take credit for it.
It's a very, very shiny floor. And, of course, being the cleaning ninja, I keep on top of it. But it would have been shiny even if I did nothing to it, I think.
So there's not too much. But the one thing I did kind of keep in mind because I have a lot of different artwork things that I've done, and I had a lot of floral things. So I've kind of dedicated the kitchen to flowers. Mm-hmm. And so all the paintings and things that are on the wall basically have a floral theme.
And the next stop is going to be the guest bedroom. We used to call this Erin's room. Erin is our granddaughter. Mm-hmm. And she used to stay with us sometimes when our daughter needed a babysitter. But now Erin is 13.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, much to our sadness, it's probably not going to happen too much more in the future where she comes and stays with Nana and Pop-Pop. I hope she does.
Yeah.
Because we always have a good time when she comes to visit. And the room will always be there for her. But I don't know how much more that's going to happen now that she's a teenager. It's probably not cool to be hanging out with Nana and Pop-Pop.
Yeah, well, it's there for anybody that wants to stay over.
That's true. That's true.
So we didn't really do a lot in that room either. We had a bed in the bag kind of thing, which I know the designers roll their eyes and frown upon. But
I don't have a problem with bed in the bag.
I
It's
don't
convenient.
either. It's convenient, and it saves you a lot of time of looking around trying to find things that match and that fit the room and that have the decor that you want. Once you find it's all there together, put it on the bed and you're good to go. So this was just a bed in the bag. It's got very muted colors, which makes it. I think it looks very restful. There's another koala on the wall there, and that I did. It was a crewel embroidery, which is embroidering with yarn, and it was from a kit. But I did that years ago, and that is up on the wall, and of course all of our. Do I say stuffed koalas? I'd say they'd probably be insulted.
They'd probably be very indignant that we call them stuffed animals.
But anyway, we have quite a few of various sizes of koala stuffed animals, and they sit on the bed.
Yeah. For lack of a better location.
Well, they like it there.
Well, they like it there. Yeah, they party there, they drink their eucalyptus sours, and they pass out, and they've got somewhere to lie down when they pass out. By the way, if you're wondering about the color of the rooms, it is very interesting because in some light, like in the studio here, the color that you were seeing on your screen tends a little bit more toward the, I would say, beige, would you say?
Yes.
As I am looking at the wall in front of me, it actually looks like a blue-gray, right?
Yeah, I think they call this grayish. It's like half gray, half
it's
beige.
Actually, the actual paint is called potter's clay. And the entire house, every room is done in that color right now. We may change that maybe in the spring. We're thinking about maybe doing the bedroom. But it doesn't bother me. I kind of like everything uniform and the same color.
I like to see something colorful. I have an idea for our bedroom that I'd like to make that a different color just to make it more of a sanctuary kind of thing.
Now we go down the 12 steps to the basement. And
dun, dun, dun.
And it's the man cave, of course. The furniture down in the man cave we actually brought from our other home. Mm-hmm. And God bless the guys that had to get that down the stairs.
Well, they're professionals.
So the furniture is older. It's faux leather, but like faux leather, it's starting to peel. And so we picked up these really cool, again, mid-century modern slipcovers and fitted it over. And I think it does look pretty cool, and it enables me to still have that mid-century modern look downstairs. And yes, there is another pole lamp down in the man cave, something that I found on Facebook Marketplace. And when the thing arrived, it was missing a section, so we couldn't get it to extend from the living room floor to the ceiling. So I brought it downstairs because the ceilings downstairs are shorter.
Right, so it worked down
and it fit perfectly down there, so it did find a home. Also down there, I have my antique radio collection. Most of those go back to the 1940s and 50s, although one good friend of mine, Nancy Remy, who is a co-worker, and you probably recognize her name from many years on radio in the New York area. She had this 1930-something radio, and she was moving from the home that she grew up in, and she gifted me with that radio. So, Nancy, I love you for that, and for many other reasons too, but thank you so much for that gift. That was really
just
very
nice.
Lovely. Also have my classic car models down there.
Yes, you do.
All of my Studebaker models. I'm crazy for Studebakers, and I've got a bunch of models downstairs. And my ham radio shack is also down there, because what does a guy who does 8 hours of live radio 5 days a week do when he gets off from work? He goes down and talks on ham radio.
Yep. When he's not doing a podcast.
When he's not doing a podcast. So,
You just can't get enough.
It's a disease. What can I tell you? We also put in a room divider downstairs. Because,
but like a screen kind of.
Like a screen.
Yeah.
Because when they built these houses, they all came with what was called a rumpus room. And the rumpus room was a 14 by 16 room, which was like a room inside the cellar. Mm-hmm. And it was meant, and it had, the walls were finished, and it had flush mount ceiling lights, and it was really meant to be like a party place or a place to hang out. And a lot of folks over the years converted that into a larger room. A lot of folks did what they did here at YellowHouse is they cut the cellar in half. And half of the cellar is unimproved and used for storage and serves as the mechanical room. And the other half is, finished off nicely and serves for entertaining. So that is the man cave. Now we go to the bane of our existence here in YellowHouse, and we are sitting in it right now. It is the back bedroom, also known as our music room, our podcasting room, and the studio where I do my traffic reports from.
It's really a multi-purpose room in every sense of the word.
I mean, it looks decent to you on camera right now because we have it cropped, but if I were to pan the camera around, you would see that it's really not the most put together place.
And, it's hard because we don't mind putting some time and effort or some expense into it, but we don't know what will look good. We don't know what we want at this point because it has to serve certain things. We have to have the podcast space. We have to have a space. We're music ministry people, so we have numerous musical instruments. We have tons of music. We have amps, wires, microphone plugs, things like that have to go with that has to be stored. Yeah. And then, like you said, this is your on-air, your 9-to-5 job that you do for your living, and you are broadcasting from here, so it has to have that capability. So all those things together, they don't play together good in the sandbox, as they say.
No, they don't.
We're not happy really with the decor that we've done in here. It's functional.
It's functional, but that's all it is.
But it's not pretty.
It's weird because when we took over the house, we looked at the kitchen and Maureen was like, "Oh, I know what to do with this." And we looked at the living room and Maureen was like, "Oh, I know what we're going to do with this." And we looked at the bedrooms and I said, "I know what we're going to do with this." And Maureen said, "No, we're not. Here's what we're going to do." And we did those. The two of us come back to this room and we're like, we don't know what to do with this.
Well, at first it wasn't so bad because it basically was just a computer room and a repository for our music stuff.
Right.
But then COVID hit and it became your workplace. And then we moved the podcasting. We had originally done it out in the kitchen and we didn't want to keep having to set it up, take it down all the time. And we wanted to keep it permanently set up. So now the podcast moved in here. So it started out okay. And now it's just cluttered.
Yeah.
And we don't know what to do.
So, if you have any ideas, if you have any thoughts, short of a stick of dynamite, put them below in the comments.
We sure, are open to suggestions, that's for sure.
By the way, did you notice the clock here? This was also a gift from our son and his fiancée. And it is I guess it's like 1960s vintage. It's a Sunbeam, and it works.
Yes, that's our mid-mod nod in here.
Yeah. This is also sort of like our little homage to Nick
Lewis.
Nick Lewis. Nick Lewis has this big clock on the wall
right behind him all the time. Everybody always comments on it,
and they want to know if that's the time that he really records his podcast. And he says, "I'm not going to tell you because I may have changed that time on the clock just to mess with you." So, again, this lets us have our mid-50s mod vibe in here. And it's also our little tip of the hat to Nick Lewis.
So that's kind of a quick and easy tour. There'll be changes. This is a work in progress.
It always is.
But what's really dangerous is sometimes we'll be sitting and I'll look at Pete and he gets this look on his face and his brows start scrunching and he focuses on something in the room that's bothering him. and I know we're in for trouble.
Yep. Something is about to change.
Yes.
Something is about to move and or be purchased. So that's program number 105 for the Sonic Boomers podcast. And join us again for the next edition when, once again, Maureen and I will talk about something that we pull off the top of our heads.
Or maybe someplace else.
And occasionally straight from the heart. Until then, goodbye.
Bye.